After about 7 years in that industry, I was like, you know what? I'm ready for a change. So I moved over to, I started my career in lending with Rocket Mortgage, where at the time it was Quicken Loans. And I learned a lot of good stuff there.
Welcome. This is the Hot Real Estate Investing Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping others through real estate investing. Our hosts interview guests from all aspects of real estate investing who generously share valuable experiences and advice. Whether you're starting out or an experienced investor, this is the show for you.
Hello, and how's it going? My name is Travis Shelton, and welcome to the Hot Real Estate Investing Podcast, where our guests come on and share valuable experiences and advice for those of you investing in real estate. We keep these podcasts quick and concise to about 15 minutes and jam-packed full of value. And I know you're going to get a ton of value out of our guest today, who's actually a close personal friend of mine, a loan officer, Jordan Nedella from NEXA Mortgage. Jordan, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Travis. I appreciate you having me. It's always a pleasure being able to get on the Zoom with you and have a conversation regarding real estate. So I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. In our spare time when we're golfing, Jordan and I do a lot of talking about real estate. And we're always picking each other's brains on how we can collaborate and work together and, who we know so that we can share and our resources and network. And it's a real pleasure to have you on today, Jordan, because I know we've talked a little bit briefly before, but how you're going to be able to share a lot of tips and tricks with our audience today. But as you know, we always start off with a little bit of background on yourself. So, share with our audience, your background and maybe how you got into real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised in Phoenix. So I've lived here my whole life. I love the Maricopa. I love Arizona just in general. So I've been here my whole life. I kind of been all over the valley. I've owned homes in Surprise. I've have one now in North Glendale. Mainly the west side of the Northwest Valley. I have a sister, I have a stepsister and 3 stepbrothers. So most of my family's here locally, which is awesome, especially during the holidays that just passed. I got to see everybody, spent a lot of time with them. I have a girlfriend of 5 years, and we have 2 rescue dogs, which at some point you might hear them if the doorbell goes off or something, but yeah, I kind of grew up in the insurance industry, like P&C insurance, property. And after about 7 years in that industry, I was like, you know what? I'm ready for a change. So I moved over to, I started my career in lending with Rocket Mortgage, where at the time it was Quicken Loans. And I learned a lot of good stuff there. I mean, they did a lot more traditional lending, and once the market changed over the last couple of years, I decided that I wanted to get into something a little bit more. As a broker, it allowed me to offer more products and services to my clients. And so I really enjoy what I've been doing. I've been doing this for about 8 months now. So I'm still relatively new in this space, but I've been doing lending for 5+ years. And so far, I love it. And I'm excited to see what happens next. So
I love it. And I think, one of the reasons I really wanted you on early in kind of this show's history is to really share that different world from the broker to the retail world. And I know that's going to really be a main focus of ours today, but we always start our shows off with some motivation, and we asked Jordan to bring a motivational quote on. So can you share that with our audience?
Yeah. One of the things that really hits home to me is a quote by Booker T. Washington. And it's those who are happiest are those who do most for others. And that's what I'm really trying to live in my life is if I'm able to help somebody, whether it's financially or really just help somebody move or whatever the case may be, like I'm always willing to help. And I think that goes far in this industry because there's certain brokers, there's certain loan officers that like if it doesn't meet a cookie cutter loan, then they'll just let it go. Hey, we can't do it. Sorry. But one of the things that in my career that I've done is really spent time with my clients and explain to them, hey, here's kind of the area that we're struggling in and what I can do to help you, or what can I do to help you get to the point where we can get this qualified. So like a lot of the times, like whether that's helping them with their credit or just explaining and educating clients on, hey, over the next 6 months, work on this, call me back, or I'll call you, and we'll be able to get this moving forward for you. So it really is anytime that I can help anybody else, regardless of what it is, I go out of my way to do that. And that's something that I really do pride myself on.
Definitely. And as a friend, I can attest to that. You're always someone there for your friends. And, I think we talked about it a little bit, but I've seen you where you get someone qualified or cleared for a loan that couldn't get a loan through somewhere else. And I think a lot of people, if you're going to traditional banks, you might get not qualify. And then you go, where's my journey? It's done. I can't own a home. And you're able to kind of get over that hump for a lot of people. And I've seen the joy it brings you and how kind of pumped up you get when you are able to close, or clear someone for a loan that maybe they didn't get qualified for at another place. And so, I love that passion that you have when you are truly helping people. So, love that. And I think that's just a great transition to really the main part of this podcast. And that's how can you help our audience of real estate investors?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I've seen in my career so far is obviously the market is always changing. So, I mean, what was happening 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago is completely different than where we're at right now. And one of the reasons that I made this transition to the broker world is because in retail lending, you have a short list of products that you can provide to clients. And you either qualify or you don't. There's not much wiggle room there with big retail lenders or banks or anything like that. It's you either check all the boxes or you don't.
I show up to Bank of America and I see they got 2 rates there. Those are my options, right? Like, yeah, that's how I used to shop my first home or two. I'd be like, what are my rates here at Bank of America? Oh, what are my rates here at my credit union? Those are my 2 options, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people think that, but the broker world, it opens up a lot more doors. So I get a lot of clients who have done that. They've gone to their bank and they say, hey, I can't qualify. And I'm like, well, let me take a look for you. In 30 days later, we're closing on their loan. There's so many lenders out there that people don't know of. And as a broker, it gives me the opportunity, and that's really what my job is to be able to shop among these lenders. Some of them have different guidelines than traditional lending. Whether it's just the standard guidelines, or if it's a non-QM, non-qualified mortgage loan, there is a chance that you can get financing. And that's one of the things one of the first loans that I did as a broker was someone that had a 526 credit score looking for a max cash out refinance. And they were looking to pay off their debt. They were looking to do some renovations in their home because they had a 3-bedroom home and they had 5 kids. So it was very packed, and they were going to renovate their garage, pay off a bunch of debt. And I think it was actually the first loan that I did. And 30 days later, we closed. They paid off like $1,200 worth of monthly debt, and they pulled out like $75,000 to be able to renovate their property to be able to basically have enough rooms for their children. So, and she was super grateful because she's like, Jordan, she's like, everybody told me no. And going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier is yeah, most people will probably look at your profile and be like, oh, a 526? No, we can't do anything. But
I don't even go the next step. You're right? Just done at that point, right? Yeah.
It's like I build relationships with my clients, and when you get to know their situation and know how much this will help them and their family, I mean, even if it takes a few days of researching to figure out if a lender can do it and what that looks like, I mean, that's worth it to me. I mean, I can spend my time looking at different lenders, looking at different programs to be able to change this person's life. So that's one of the big reasons why I switched from the retail world to the broker world is I just have so much more available at my fingertips to be able to help people out.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word relationship, which I loved because, so often I think when you are dealing with maybe one of those big boxes is like you call a 1-800 number and they don't care. You're just a number to them, right?
Yep.
And it's like, if I'm going to call you or I'm calling a broker, I'm calling a loan officer, I'm getting Jordan. I'm getting Jordan every time. You do care. You do care about your clients. You do care to follow up. You had mentioned, hey, maybe I need to work with them for 6 months to get their credit right before we can do something, right? So there, I love that word relationship that you use to kind of describe how you're working with your clients, because I think that's a little different than maybe the other traditional mortgage world.
For sure. And trust me, I mean, I came from the largest lender in America at one time. And that was everybody's complaint, is it's like, hey, I feel like I'm a number. And really you are. I was writing so many loans that it was like, they're like, you don't have time to talk to clients that are in process. You don't have time to answer their questions. You got to go write more loans. And that's the sad reality of it, is when you go to those bigger lenders and you don't get that personal feel, and you don't get, I mean, our goal was to write your loan as quickly as we possibly could and get you off the phone. Where it's like, I mean, now I'm writing a fraction of the loans, but it allows me to be able to spend more time with each individual client and really understand what their goals and needs are, and then be able to put them in the best program possible.
That's great. And you've kind of touched on this, but what are the true pros and cons to a mortgage broker, as opposed to your previous job?
There's a lot of pros and cons, and I put just a little bit of a list down here to kind of go through them. And one of the things that I would tell you is, with a broker, is that it really can potentially save you time, money, and effort. So rather than you calling around to 6, 7, 8 different lenders, I mean, that's basically what I do, is I go out and I find the best program for you. So I'm a one-stop shop. You call me, I'll figure out what loan makes the most sense, and I'll tell you why. Now, on the flip side of that can also be a con sometimes, because each lender that you work with might have a different experience. So my job as a broker is to figure out which lenders can offer you the best pricing, best rate, but also provide you the best experience. So when I'm talking to a client and I'm interviewing them, it comes down to, okay, well, cost and rate are kind of on different ends of the spectrum. And then you have your experience. Which is most important to you? I know they're both important, but which is most important to you? If it's your rate, okay. So when I go and I look at these different lenders, I'm going to look at lenders that have the lowest rate. And with that, it allows me to be able to kind of explain to you, okay, well, with this lender, they're going to give you the lowest rate, but it might be a 45-day close. Rather than, hey, this one is an 1/8 of a percent higher, but it's a company that I trust, and it's a company that I've used many times before. It's a difference of $15 in your payment, but they're going to give you a great experience, and we should be able to close in 3 weeks. So my job is to help educate clients that, I mean, yes, rate's important, but it's not always the only thing that you need to look at. Because I'm a big proponent of finding the lender that can give you the best experience. Because I've had clients in the past that have come back to me and they went with a different lender because they were offering a lower rate. And they called me 45 days later and they said, hey, my rate lock's expired. Now the costs are going up and all of this. And it's like, I understand that you made the decision to go that route because of the rate, but this is now the situation that you're in. So those are things that you have to consider. And as first-time home buyers or investors that are getting into the market for their first couple purchases, is find somebody that you trust. And that's why in this business, there's so much repeat business with investors and clients, is because if you provide them a good experience up front and you trust them, then when they tell you, hey, this is the lender that we're going to go with and this is why, you can 100% be like, perfect, let's do it.
We know that you have our backs, and
Yep.
we trust you. And if you've interviewed us well, like you mentioned, which I like that you noted, that is you're taking our best interests in mind, not just saying, hey, I'm getting paid the most on this loan, or they're going to close the quickest over here. It's like, no, what's most important to my client, which is extremely, extremely valuable. And I think probably not done enough,
And like my business is built on referrals and repeat clients. I don't pay for leads. I don't do any of that. It's all just word of mouth. So if I can provide somebody a great experience and then they go tell 5, 10 people, there's a good chance that one of those people are going to call me. And that's what I really feel like this industry sometimes lacks is, and when you go to those bigger banks, is that you're just a number. So why am I going to refer my friends and family to somebody that I felt like a number rather than somebody that helped educate me and explain things and just give me an overall great experience throughout the process? So a couple of the things, going back to your question, as far as like pros and cons, one of the things that brokers provide, and again, we touched on it a little bit earlier today, but like for instance, myself, I have 170 plus lenders. So in certain situations where it's like, maybe I've had clients that we did a no income loan. They had income, they had a ton of reserves, but like they wouldn't qualify for like a standard conventional. Or I've had clients that we have to do, say, a bank statement loan because they just started their business and it's only been in business for a year. So we get 12 months worth of business and personal bank statements. So one of the cool things about a broker is that not only do they have all the traditional financing, but they also can go outside the box and figure out ways to qualify people that are in not your typical cookie cutter situation.
Before I knew about mortgage brokers, sorry to cut you off there, Jordan, but like, I was always told like shop 2 or 3 rates, right? So, and that's kind of what I did. And so it's amazing that, you're basically saying you're a one-stop shop to 170 different potential rates or opportunities, and not only regular qualified mortgages, but also non-qualified mortgages. The market is changing, right? I mean, every day, every week, it seems like we hear rates are going up, rates are going down, this is happening, that's happening. It's a bull market, it's a bear market, it's a seller's market, it's a buyer's market. And so like, how often do I need to bug you, right? I mean, I bug you all the time, but like, how often should I be? Should I be calling you once a month, like on the first, and saying, what are rates today? How often are these rates changing? How frequently should a real estate investor, be in touch with their mortgage broker?
Yeah, great question. So you're 100% correct. Anybody who's in this industry knows that we've seen a lot of change, over the past couple of years. I mean, from when rates were in the 2% range, 3% range to now, rates got up to like the mid 7s and things are kind of stabilizing. So we're seeing changes. And just to put it into perspective, one of my biggest lenders, I'm getting a pricing change probably once, twice, maybe 3 times a day. So if you talk to me in the morning, and I go over a loan with you and say, here's your rate, here's your cost, and then the next day you call me, or maybe later on that night you call me and you're like, Jordan, let's get this moving forward, let's lock it in, it could be different. So what I would say to investors that are out shopping and looking at different properties is, talk to your broker. Maybe hit them up once a week, or one thing that I'm going to be doing this year is sending out, and I know lenders do this, they'll send out kind of like a market update. But even with that, by the time you create it and send it out, it could be different. So I always tell everybody that, hey, if you really do have a property in mind that you're either walking through or you're very, very interested in looking to put an offer in on, at that point, call, and I can go in, I can price everything out, get you the numbers that you need to see if the investment works for you. And then at that point, if it does, great, we can move forward. Now, again, I'm there's a good chance that things could change because I've seen guidelines change week to week. So 1 week, a lender's requiring 10% down. The next week, they're requiring 15. A month later, they're requiring 25%. So with the market, you just have to understand that things are going to change. And in my position, that's, again, what I do for my clients is I provide them with what those changes look like. But yeah, I would say really once you're serious, because if you're just kind of kicking tires and, hey, where's the market at? It doesn't do you much value because you're going to have to call again once you actually find something. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but everybody right now in this industry just needs to understand that guidelines and rates and cost are changing almost every day.
And really what I'm hearing is just make sure you have Jordan on speed dial like I do. So when I'm evaluating a property, I hit you up, I show you some numbers, maybe even send you the deal and say, hey, here's what the last one was like a $1.8 million 8 unit. And where are we in these 4 or 5 key things? And within, about a day, I get back about 3 different quotes or opportunities of lenders that you have and different, down payment options, different prepayment penalties, and some of the key characteristics that I was concerned about. So I'm glad I got you on my team because I know I utilize you probably a little bit too much for info, but it's awesome to have someone that's so responsive and someone I trust. Like you said, I trust you, that you got my back, and I always appreciate that.
Hi, my name is Chris Hallam of Simplicity Lending Group and powered by NEXA Mortgage. I'm a trusted and experienced loan officer who will work with you to find the best mortgage options for your needs. From first-time homebuyers to experienced investors, I have a wide variety of loan options and competitive rates, which makes me the perfect choice for those who are in need of creative financing. Contact me today and take the first step towards financial stability.
So I want to switch gears, and I think unless you had anything else, I wanted to jump right into the hot questions with you and throw you in the hot seat.
Let's do it.
All right, man. So we ask all our audience or all our guests the same 4 questions. And actually, just yesterday, we got a sponsorship from your own boss, Christopher Hallam, who Homes with Hallam is now the sponsor for the final 4 hot questions. And so we'll have a little lead in moving forward to the final 4 hot questions from your brokerage. But what's one book you'd recommend to someone wanting to know more about real estate investing?
So I read this question, and the book that I'm reading right now doesn't necessarily directly pertain to real estate investing. But one thing that I'm getting a lot of value out of is it's a book called The Wealthy Spirit. In this industry, I feel like so much of our success depends on our mindset. And so like mindset to me is very important. And one of the reasons why I'm reading this book, and it's a very, very easy read. It's a year-long worth of daily affirmations. And so like when I wake up, I go sit in my office, it's 1 page. I read 1 page of a daily affirmation that just helps me prepare for the day and get my mind right. So that's one thing that I would recommend is in this industry and really any industry is starting off your day right and just getting in a positive mindset before you even open up your email.
What's your favorite productivity tip or trick? Maybe an app or some sort of time saver that you utilize in your day-to-day?
So one thing that I'm focusing on in 2023 is planning out my week, and it sounds very simple, but as we go through our days, we can sometimes get just blown around by the wind. And whether it's you calling me saying, "Hey, I got this deal, I need this now," and I'm in the middle of something else, it's for me to be successful in my position, I need to have set times that I'm doing certain things. And so it's not really a hack. It's very, very simple, but it's every Friday, what I do before I leave the office is I have an hour set aside to plan out my next week. And I know that throughout the week, things will come across my desk, but if I have the structure of my week planned out, and on Monday, I know, okay, this is what I'm doing. And then throughout that day, I have time set aside if a client calls me, or if I need to follow up with an investor, or whatever the case may be. There's a saying that it's failing to plan is planning to fail. And that's one thing that for me in 2023 that I'm really focused on is just more structure, more planning. Because I really feel that that's one of the keys to success is being able to have everything set up and just put yourself in a place to succeed.
The most successful people I know are planners, and I read something, I think it's from Brian Tracy, but it's called the 6P formula for success. And I used to tell all my students, all my residents the same thing. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. And it's just one of those things, when you plan your week out in advance, you get so much more done, and then you still have time for those little interruptions and whatnot. So love it, man.
Yep.
What's your biggest real estate mistake or failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
myself and a lot of people that I talk to is the biggest mistake that you can make is waiting. Waiting is always, you always look back and say, man, I wish I would have gotten the market then, or I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have done that. And I'm very analytical, and I get to the point sometimes where I just need to be like, Jordan, just stop. Like, it makes sense, do it. You don't need to know every finite detail of a deal. So for me, like, I always look back at previous transactions that I've done, and I'm like, man, if I just would have gotten in a year earlier or 6 months earlier or whatever the case may be. So there's not one specific thing that I would say that comes to mind right now, but I would say that the biggest mistake in real estate in general is waiting.
Don't wait to buy real estate and wait, right?
Yeah.
That's why they say that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah. There's everyone's is like, I either waited too long or I sold. It's like almost every investor, everybody in real estate says one of those two things, it seems like. And then Jordan, finally, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
So one thing that I would say about myself is I really do define my success on being able to help others. And when going back to the example that I gave earlier in this podcast where I was able to help that client when no one else would even entertain helping her. And so, like, for me, like that gave me a lot of self-worth, a lot of pride in what I do, because she was extremely grateful. Everybody was slamming doors in her face, and when I just took some time to kind of get to know her and figure it out and spend a little bit of time, I might not have an answer to you right away or maybe within a day, but I mean, within a couple of days, I could probably call you back and say, hey, I found somebody. I found a lender that will do this. And so, I mean, as far as being remembered, that's one thing that I really would like to be remembered, is just someone that kind of goes above and beyond to help clients, to help even in my personal life. If anybody needs anything, like I am 100% ready for their phone call. I mean, I'll do anything to help my friends, my family. I try to live that quote that we discussed earlier. And at the end of the day, I think that that's one of the biggest, most important things that you can really define yourself as, is somebody that will do anything for somebody else. So
no, definitely. And I see it, knowing you personally. I mean, I see it with yourself and Emily and what you guys do with your family and friends. And you're definitely a friend I can rely on if I need you or when I need you. So definitely, I think you're living out those values, and awesome. Well, thanks again, Jordan, dude. I really appreciate it. And, I think for all our audience, this is one of those people you got to have in your network. You got to have a loan mortgage broker. You got to have someone you trust on your team to be able to reach out to get different rates, to shop multiple products, hundreds of different products, with one phone call. You're not having to talk or do 4 or 5 different applications at 4 or 5 different banks. You're talking to one person and you're getting multiple rates, multiple options, down payment, LTV, whatever it might be. And I definitely highly recommend Jordan and his team and NEXA Mortgage. He is somebody who I personally call up, utilize. We talk real estate all the time. So his number and his email will be in the show notes. Use them as a resource. That's why we're doing this podcast, so I can share resources, referrals with the world. And this is definitely somebody I highly recommend. So thank you again, Jordan, for being on the podcast. And thank you to the audience for listening in today. And we'll catch you next time. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for listening to the Hot Real Estate Investing Podcast. Check out our website, hotrei.com, for additional content and resources. And please take a moment to subscribe and leave a review, so we can continue to bring even more value to others through real estate investing.